Mindset. We've heard this word a trillion times on podcasts and videos from people talking about becoming successful. But what is a good mindset, and how does this apply to climbing? Before I start the video, I just want to say thank you for all the feedback I've gotten on this. It really means a lot. A lot of people have talked about the name I gave the topic, mental, and how normally climbing mental is generally talking about things like fear, fortitude, and commitment. I want to make it clear that this series is not talking about those things at all. Some people have mentioned the word skills, and that may be a better umbrella term to describe everything. But regardless of how you want to classify them, the things I want to talk about, like mindset, intuition, visualization, and tactics, are not discussed enough. And this is what I want to do in that series. I had already made this video before seeing all the feedback, so you may hear me refer to things as mental, and you can ignore that if you'd like. But I think the topic itself is more important than what we're going to call everything. So anyways, thanks for clicking on the video, and let's go ahead and get started. In the last video, I talked about how climbing is both a physical and mental activity, and how I believe these two aspects interact. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch that first. It's only 4 minutes long. But we left with the question, how do we improve the mental aspects of climbing? It's complicated, multifaceted, and not measurable. Again, what I want to do in this series is talk about some mental aspects of climbing that are rarely discussed and how to improve them. So this video is about mindset. And no, I'm not talking about having a fixed or growth mindset or like having an open mind, but rather putting in the extra effort to learn. So let me tell you a story. I was a high school math teacher for 3 years, partly during COVID. So you can imagine how teaching math online would be rampant with cheating, with no realistic way to stop it. You see, there are countless resources online to instantly solve math problems, and the most popular of these among my students was Photomath, a phone app where you can take a picture of a problem and it spits the answer right out on the screen for you. It's a really cool use of computer vision, actually, and I'll show you a demo. All right, I'm here on Photomath with this simple algebra problem. All I have to do is take a picture and it will show me the answer. It's capable of solving both handwritten and typed questions. Now, your first instinct is probably to simply just ban this type of software, but it can actually be a great tool. If you look closely, immediately below the answer is a button that takes you to a step-by-step explanation of the solution. But my students weren't interested in that. They just wanted to get the right answers on their homework and tests. In the post-online learning world, my former coworkers and I estimated that students were about 1.5 grade levels behind where they normally were for that grade in math. I had many students who couldn't do 5th grade math in 9th grade algebra, and this was because they didn't want to take the extra time to look at how to get that solution themselves. Instead, they would just take the solution and run with it. But honestly, I don't really blame them. They were just trying to get through a pandemic and pass a course they didn't want to take. But the rest of us are no different. ChatGPT has enabled us to do work without learning how to do it at all. TikTok and Instagram are feeding our dopamine addiction, and you would be naive to think that these habits don't bleed into our climbing. Climbing and math aren't as different as they seem. At the core of both lie pattern recognition and critical thinking. In math, you're taught a concept, and you apply that concept to different questions. In climbing, you have a toolbox of techniques and movement ideas, and you apply them to different situations. In fact, climbing and math are so similar that we use the word problem to describe both boulders and math questions. In math, there's usually a key step that is more complicated than the rest of the problem. Once you unlock this step, everything else falls into place. This is pretty similar to climbing. Usually, there is a key move or key idea that unlocks that key move. When we were starting, maybe the key idea was the flag, but sometime later, there may have been a drop knee or a heel or toe hook. All of these techniques that we still use were once answers to climbing problems. However, over time, these key ideas may become more complex and more subtle. Maybe simply doing a flag wasn't enough, but the key was to flag a certain amount, like a deep back flag versus a shallow back flag. These solutions are at first key ideas to a specific instance of a problem, like that pink one in the corner. But generalizing these solutions to other instances of similar problems is important. You're bound to find a problem that has a somewhat similar crux move, and the knowledge you gain from one climb can be transferred from one to another. Let me show you an example with a move I made on MS Paint. It's a vert wall, and we are starting with one hand on each of the green flat crimps, and we are following, trying to move our right hand to the decent blue crimp. These pink holds are the feet options. Let's say you've tried a couple times with the closer foot but can't manage. You try the farther foot and do it on your first try. Now, we can choose to respond to this experience in a couple ways. You can say, wow, all I had to do was choose a farther foot and I could have just done the problem. Then move on with your session. Or you can sit and think to realize that you were falling because moving your body past your foot causes you to lose opposition, and the farther foot helps you keep it. Maybe it takes you 3 seconds to come to this conclusion, or maybe it takes you days. But now that you know this, when a similar move comes your way, you can apply the same principle. See, the extra effort to understand why you weren't succeeding, then analyzing why a change ended up making the difference, heightens your understanding. A great way to do this is working on climbs with people. The collaborative effort to figure out a climb can be extremely beneficial, as combining two focused brains can yield breakthroughs that aren't possible alone. Plus, verbalizing thoughts is a great way to synthesize the information you have ruminating in your head, as you have to form concrete sentences to convey this information to the other person. The last thing I want to talk about is beta. Some people don't like receiving beta and opt to figure things out on their own, while others always soak up as much beta as they can. But getting beta is kind of like using photomath. You're getting told the answer, or at least a possible answer, but it's actually up to you to sit with the solution and understand why this beta works or doesn't work for you. It's up to you and your mindset to not just try the beta, but understand why that beta exists. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that this idea of taking the extra time and putting in the mental effort to understand and synthesize information can, over time, improve your climbing skills. Not only is this a great mindset to have in climbing, but also in every activity we care about. Building your fundamental knowledge and cementing foundational skills is how you create a strong tower of knowledge. So I hope that this philosophy will be part of your journey to improve and excel in your passions.